That is how they did business there. They're like, okay, you're not going to sell me Castellón? No pasa nada. I'm going to buy Villarreal, and then I'm going to make it way bigger than Castellón, and that's exactly what's actually happened.
Hello, and welcome to Hispanophiles Travel in Spain with Only Half a Brain, the only podcast that has ever made Vicente del Bosque smile. True story, bro. On today's episode, we are launching our own new mini-series. That is GolGolGolGolGol! GolGolGolGolGol! Dylan, give me some goal.
Goal!
I need more than that.
Goal!
A little bit too much. In this series, we will combine our desire to learn more about this beautiful country with, of course, its beautiful football culture. In GolGolGolGol, we will use football as the lens to look through to learn more about the history and culture, the economy and politics of Spain. In this episode, we're talking about Villarreal, the Yellow Submarine's rise from Provincial Minnow to European champions. But first, let's say hello to our host. Silvana's back.
Yo. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about Villarreal. For people who didn't understand what you just said, but for me it's Villarreal.
What did I say?
Villarreal?
Almost. I almost said that.
Oh, nice. Okay, loving it.
And we've got a special guest host today. It's Dylan Dewey. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
Please introduce yourself, Dylan. What is your profession and where do you come from?
My mom is French, my dad's American. Lived in Barcelona for a few years now, and I am a licensed FIFA football agent. So happy to be on to offer any perspective possible.
So if we talk about Sepp Blatter, you're going to rat us in?
I wouldn't say that. I would probably say the
Would
opposite.
you go online? Would you go online and badmouth Sepp Blatter, which is the boss of the FIFA? Would you?
Used to be, yeah.
So now you can freely speak.
Yeah, maybe I'll get my license revoked, but I theoretically can.
Okay, now let's go on record saying we think FIFA is a beautiful organisation.
Love FIFA, yeah, especially the video games, which are no longer called FIFA, but I love FIFA.
Because they wanted too much money, I think that's why.
Driven by integrity, and of course, very responsible when it comes to paying taxes.
And great tournament
very
organisers.
democratic organisation as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. Guys, your football connections, who do you support?
Well, people would say I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I support two teams, Manchester United and Barcelona, but it is what it is. You know, being an American, you have to support someone growing up.
Could have chose someone better, I think, Man United and Barcelona. So.
I chose them before, huh?
There we go.
I'll go second because I can't wait for your response. Obviously, we all know your love and your passion. I share the same love and passion, but for my team, which is PSV Eindhoven, Dutch champions. An absolutely wonderful team, and we're doing great this year, and hopefully we'll do great many years more.
With a lot of Americans, huh?
Yeah, we do have some players with the nationality of the United States of America. Dylan? But yeah, no, I mean, we're a multicultural team. However, I mean, as is Manchester United, and as is your team. What's your team, James?
Hull City.
Oh.
Should we start with a regular segment?
Sure.
Good.
Let's go, yeah.
Let's go with new Spanish vocabulary. And our new friend Dylan is going to be the one kicking us off today with some new Spanish words and or phrases he has learned. What have we got?
So I knew this one for a while. I was, of course, doing some homework because James is very well organized. And I looked into it, quilombo. Again, I thought it was spelled with a K, but it's spelled with a Q. And originally my understanding, well, I know because my girlfriend is Argentinian, that it means basically a hot mess, a shit show.
Quilombo.
Yes.
Quilombo.
And then I heard it in a podcast, Tim Ferriss. You might know him.
Another name,
being
yeah.
a host, yes. And apparently it came from, because original expressions have origins from somewhere, right? And it came from, because there's a lot of Italian immigrants in Argentina. That's why in Barcelona they all have Italian passports. They've never been in Italy. They don't speak Italian at all. And apparently it was when the Italians came over there, they had whorehouses, and that was called the quilombo. So
houses of pleasure.
Yeah. So that was the reason it was like a hot mess. Then I looked into it today again, and heard a completely different explanation, which was the former slaves in Brazil that then started their own plantation, or not plantations themselves, but like their own living quarters. That was called a quilombo. So I don't know, it's one of these things where we don't really know where the expression comes from.
But if they're not really good at cleaning, maybe a quilombo could be a living quarter, which is not very tidy. You know, it could still be a hot mess and you can live there.
Maybe that's where
So
it
basically,
comes from in the.
It's like
the
when I go
Brazilian
home,
sense.
I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to be back in my Quilombo. Yeah,
I've been there a few times. That would be an understatement.
There you go. There you go. And what? And how would you call a not so hot mess?
Quilombi.
Quilombi. All right.
Quilombit.
A bit of a
no
Quilombit, are we now?
I don't think that's in the origin stories.
No, I quite like that. So 2 potential origin stories. One being a place of business, and the other being
Business for some, pleasure for others, I suppose.
true.
All right, let's not get into the details. But
Exactly.
everyone can have fun at the same time. Everyone can have fun at the same
Yeah,
time.
but to your point, I don't interrupt, but I think the point is that there are different stories for
So
the
basically,
meaning.
a
No one really
Quilombo-
knows, right? It's somewhere in between.
A Colombo is a really messy whorehouse, and Colombo was a detective who always had a question at the end of the interview.
So I'll have to go back and ask my girlfriend to see what the real truth is. But she definitely says that often, especially where we live.
Also, your girlfriend probably is not really interested in explaining to you how you can actually pronounce a whorehouse.
Is it Argentina specific? I mean, I've not heard this.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
From my understanding.
But I'm talking about Argentina specific. Argentinians would not say Villarreal. They would say Villarreal.
Villarreal.
Yeah.
Because they have the dirty Spanish. no?
Dylan's got it.
Yeah, but you have that as well. How do you pronounce Villarreal?
Villa with a J sound. It's
Villa.
slightly harder than the
Villa.
I mean, I still don't even know how to spell it. Every time I spell it, it's 2 L's, 2 R's, but then there's a hyphen
Correct.
in between the A and the R.
The club
That's my
is
understanding.
one word, and I think I've seen on travel timetables it being 2 words. Yeah, but my understanding is
I think it's VILLA hyphen RE or no REAL maybe.
Maybe-
Real would be the royal.
Maybe one's kind of Catalan / Valencian, and the other is Castilian. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Could be.
Because when I Google it, I never know what to actually look for.
Well, let's get into it. Let's talk Villarreal, guys.
One more segment. So
Oh, shit, sorry, yeah.
Wait, are you the host? Oh.
Yeah,
Three of us.
you are the
the
guest
co-host.
here, man. This is what we do.
I think we should listen to James.
This is
do
what
you
we
think?
do every fucking single week, man. You're a guest. If you want to come back, you better fucking tone it down, dude.
I'll ask him for permission, not you.
No, you're just here to do.
okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much, Dylan, for the great segment.
Woo!
We progress on to Spanish news, and I believe Silvano has us covered.
Yeah, I just have like an announcement that the Spanish government, especially for Barcelona, the Barcelonian government did last week. They said in a couple of years we're going to ban private rentals for tourists to come because too many tourists. So that means Airbnbs or when you rent out your house privately to other people for tourists, you can't do that anymore. So that there will be more space for actual locals to live in the city, which is a good initiative. However, this is why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't really think it's going to make a difference, because I think people will then just no longer post it on Airbnb. They'll just share it on Facebook.
Yep.
It's kind of a bootleg thing, like ban alcohol in the 20s and then loads of alcohol was
US,
being
yeah.
sold under the table. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just having a conversation with someone about this the other day, and I agree that the intentions are good, but always people who are breaking the rules are one step ahead of the rules, right?
Yeah, but this is for short term, for tourists. Tourists going to stay for 1 week.
Yeah, but what I mean is, so if you have a regular rental contract, you're completely protected because you're there for 5 years and you can leave in 6 months. Great, the law protects you completely. But now what they're doing, and I lived in one of these places in Sagrada Familia, was completely an Airbnb thing. You had Sagrada Familia random poster there. It was clearly not to live there long term.
Yeah.
But they did this as a way around.
Yeah, but I mean
the law. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but for the tourists, if tourists are going to stay here for 2 nights, hotel prices are insane. I mean, your Ryanair flight is 30 euros, and then your hotel room is going to be 200, 250 per night. And what you can then do is like book an Airbnb, and that will then no longer be allowed. So people are going to try to find ways. Does it actually help the housing problem in Barcelona? First question. Second part of the question is, what's the actual benefit besides being popular as a politician?
Let's break this down into a few different parts. Number one, I like the fact that a government is prioritising the well-being of citizens rather than tourists.
Agree.
Number two, I don't think Barcelona will ever struggle for tourism, quite frankly. Number three, depends how wide the net is being cast here. Will this also extend to Castelldefels, Cava, Sitges,
Well,
Badalona?
I think it's
don't know.
Ayuntamiento de Barcelona.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's maybe
So
it's Catalunya though. I'm not sure.
I did see something about this, and I thought it was Barcelona specifically.
Well,
But
the number of places that I've registered that are renting out short term for tourists at the moment is 10,000. So 10,000 flats. But the whole point is, by 2028, those 10,000 are no longer allowed to rent out short term to tourists, right? It's just for people to actually live there. So 10,000 will be banned. That means 10,000 tourists will have to find another way to find a place to stay. And what's that gonna change to the dynamic? I mean,
People are going to find another way, is what you're suggesting, right?
yeah.
that's what I believe, Dylan. I agree with what you're both hinting at, which is there will be some sort of law of unintended consequences happening here that I don't know enough about the industry to predict.
Because tourists will keep coming more and more and more. You know, now even in Venice, people are like, we don't want more people in Venice at all. So
But even now, there's an
tourist-specific.
Airbnb amount of licenses that they give out, right?
Yeah, but that's why they're scratching now 10,000 Airbnb licenses by 2028. So this is not about like
So there will be
paying
zero, right?
agency fees. I'm really just talking about tourists. Couple of days, that's it. What will that change to the dynamic? Because they'll probably go to Facebook.
Well, the hotels will get more money. I suppose
But you don't.
that would be
see
the logical thing. I don't know if that will happen.
But the hotel prices are already really expensive.
Yep.
And if there's there's more demand, then they will get more expensive because now they can charge 200 per night.
There's
and
no
then
free market.
10,000 Airbnbs are gone. They can charge 300 and people will pay.
Potentially.
So actually, who is it preferencing? It's actually preferencing the hotels. If you think about it that way, from your logic, it's not actually helping
it's
people.
They struggle, and they do struggle, hotels, to kind of make money. Anything in hospitality, it's not a
Yeah, but politics.
cash, it's not a minded
But the
goal,
fundamental
so-
issue is okay. Those 10,000, those go away, right?
Yeah,
So-
because that
so do
opens
those
space for the residents that want to
those
live here.
10,000 then need to go on the market to be rented to normal people like us. But that doesn't mean that those people will actually do that.
But they
They
will.
could they could theoretically hold it.
No, but they will because everyone's looking for a decent place to stay.
I personally think what will become a black market for short-term accommodation in the city for tourists. The problem you've got is you won't have an interface whereby someone new to the city can find someone who's a bit, cash on the table, let me stay in your living room for a week, whatever it may be. So these 10,000 flats won't all directly become black market short-term accommodation for tourists.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So those
Theoretically.
10,000, they are heavily monitored, and they are supposed to go on the market for people from here that they can actually have housing, which is fine. But I'm thinking that's the question I tried to raise. Like, you're a tourist, right? You book your flight to Barcelona, Ryanair flight, very cheap from wherever you come from, and okay, now I need to get accommodation, but there's no more Airbnbs. So what do? Do you have a number? And it's like,
Of course, but
and then you meet a
lot of
dodgy
people
guy in
aren't
the
that
car.
resourceful is what I mean. Like somebody coming from the States, from the middle of Minnesota in the mid-60s, they're not going to have the context to do what you're describing. I think.
But they have money for a hotel. But what
Yeah.
I'm trying,
Okay,
But what I'm
okay.
trying to say is like, okay, and then you just jump into a dodgy guy's car. You give him the cash. He gives you the keys, and then he gives you the location, and then you go there. It's all starting to look like a fucking
Sounds like
drug
your personal
trade.
habits.
Like a drug trade. Like, yeah, okay. So you're gonna be checking out on Tuesday. Meet me on this parking lot on Tuesday. Yeah, give me back the key. Make sure the key is clean. Okay.
I do think this has been an open goal for some political party, not just in Spain, in the UK even more, to come in and say, look at the astronomical increases of real estate prices, property across the country, most notably in London, that is really pricing young people out of the market. And this is what I think this measure is in part trying to solve. Let's reduce the demand in some measure to try and get what we'll call the inflation of property prices in the short term under control.
But this is an
Will that-
assumption
will
as
that
well,
work?
right?
I don't
Does
know.
that
No,
actually
no.
mean one is related to the other?
In the last 10 years, the rent prices have increased 68%
That's
in the
insane.
last 10
Wow.
years.
That's insane.
And I did my homework. This is not a number I'm making up. 68% increase of rent in 10 years' time. Right? That's
That's insane.
6.8% per year. And then the price for buying increased in 10 years 34%. Obviously, it's
This is just Barcelona?
Barcelona specific, yeah. So obviously, like every other city in Europe, it's going insane. I think we're gonna talk about this more and more, and we'll see how this develops. It's a good idea, and we need to do something about it. However, how it will end up, I mean, prices will keep increasing, and the difference between poor and rich is gonna be, the gap is gonna be bigger and bigger, and we'll have to deal with that someday. But today is not today.
But it's like London here. You can't build up, right? Because you don't have much space. Here, it's Madrid just goes out now. Now it just never ends. It's a desert. Here you have the beach and you have the mountain. So you don't have any other options. And people say it's so expensive, but this is completely relative. To me, it's super cheap in comparison to what? Like the US. Yeah. But then I understand if you're making 1,200 euros a month and you have 3 kids, then that's f***ing expensive. Yeah. So it's all relative, you know.
Fantastic segment and good discussion. Thank you very much, Solano. Thank you, gents.
I bring the news to you guys.
Shall we move on to the main talking point, boys?
Here we go. Villarreal.
Villarreal, how does Dylan say it?
Villarreal, I would say. Okay. But I really don't know.
Founded in 1923, Villarreal Club de Football originally wore black and white kits for the first few years until they brought in the policy of having yellow shirts with blue shorts in 1947. They have been all yellow since 2003, and the 2000s are the main era we're going to discuss today. So a lot of different faces worn by this club over time. Do you guys know the nicknames of Villarreal? I've already given you
Submarine?
One. Yellow Submarine. Tell me why.
I actually don't know.
No problem.
I do know, but I have some questions. So I think it would be better, James, if you explain to us why is the Yellow Submarine, and then I have questions.
Well, Dylan mentioned the Beatles, and he's absolutely correct. Los Mustangs, not the most imaginative name I've ever heard for a pop group, but there we go. They covered the Beatles' Yellow Submarine in the 60s, and they sold 130,000 copies in Spain. A bit of a one-hit wonder. This wasn't a musical career that spanned generations. But that song's release coincided with a time in which Villarreal seemed to go up and down between leagues all the time. Again, wearing yellow from the mid-40s onwards. The idea of a entity going up and down wearing yellow Submarine, fit perfectly. And that's where the name came from. Since October 2001, they've also had their mascot called Groget, I think is how it's pronounced in Catalan, which just means little submarine in Catalan, because in the Comunitat de Valencia, they speak their own version of Catalan, don't they?
What is the difference with... It's the same thing?
As far as I'm concerned, Mallorquin, which is spoken in the Balearic Islands, and Valencian are dialects of Catalan. Many Valencian nationalists would probably...
I thought Catalan is a dialect of Spanish as well.
It was, I think, 2005, the European Union decided to declare Valencian as a recognised language, at a time when the Spanish state hadn't. So then the entire population of Catalonia turned around and like, what are you talking about? It's Catalan. But things are spelt differently in Valencian
but
Catalan.
Pronunciation is the same.
I'm not the most qualified to ask. Okay. I don't know the Valencia that well.
But it's not a political issue like it is here, though.
So, Yellow Submarine, Villarreal. Until 2003, they were wearing white kits?
Until 1947, they were wearing white and black. Since 2003, all yellow.
All yellow, okay. I don't really get it. Okay, Villarreal is a good team. However, they will probably not be relegated. They'll probably not be champions, right?
Yeah,
so you got
to play.
So you got to play to your strengths, right? So you need to really hustle for a 7th, or maybe for 10th spot, or maybe they ended up 2nd. I think it was in 2006. However, if you want to play to your strengths, right? If we think about it, a submarine is developed to go underwater and to go unseen. You know, penetrate enemy seas, then shoot a torpedo, bang, boom, goal, destroy the target.
Yes.
How stupid would you be as a submarine to be yellow? Why would you be yellow? Be a fucking light blue submarine, because then people don't see you coming.
I think you've ruined the Beatles for many people now.
Second theory I have.
Go on.
Castellón is in between Barcelona and Valencia.
Correct.
Right? That's where they're from, right? It's on the coast. And a lot of people go there to bathe and to hang out around the sea. Maybe they put their light blue incognito submarine in there. And then many people are in the sea and they're all peeing. That's what you do in the sea.
That is a
and then what happens?
That is
then the submarine was the yellow one. So I'm thinking the submarine is yellow because it was peed on.
And that's why they used to have blue shorts, because the bottom half would stay blue because the pee would stay on the top half of the submarine.
There you go. Yes, and that's why Diego Forlán is blonde.
That's like why the Brazil national team is that way as well.
No, they're the Canaries, and Canaries are already yellow.
What about the blue shorts?
Well,
You're not wearing blue shorts. It's a bit disappointing.
I'm turning you into a yellow submarine in 3, 2.
Anyway, the stadium, now known as the Estadio de Ceramica, has a capacity of 23,500, quite a good size compared to many other smaller teams here in Spain, named as such as of 1993. Before then, it was known as El Madrigal, a name I prefer, actually, to Estadio de Ceramica.
What does Madrigal mean?
I was hoping you didn't ask because I don't know. But
I don't. That's
But
we'll take a look in the break.
I know why Ceramica.
It has a better ring. Because
El Madrigal, yes.
Also because when you think...
Sounds like a bullfighter or something.
No, but when you say Ceramica, you don't really kind of have like an instant connection to football. But when you say Madrigal, it could be. It could be like...
But you don't know why.
Like a powerhouse midfielder, El Madrigal. I don't know what it means, but it sounds good. But
you know why it's La Ceramica?
Yeah, but El Ceramica, then you're like, that guy doesn't know how to move or turn, you know. El Madrigal, it's more of a football thing.
And he's too fragile. No.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the conversation, yeah. You know,
the reason it's called Estadio de Ceramica relates to the local industry, which has been a huge factor in the evolution of not just Villarreal, but the Castellón province more widely, which we will come into in a second. Let's go a little bit more through some of the other facts about the club itself. In 2003, it opened its Ciudad Deportiva and the Cantera system. It has 9 pitches and accommodation for the youth players it trains. Complete refurbishment of El Madrigal / Estadio de Ceramica took place in 2004 and 2005 with some financial obscurities, which we'll come to a little bit later on as well.
I was just going to say as well that they also have like a second affiliate club. I need to check La Paterna or something like that. So basically, it's like a filial, like a reserve of the academy. So the best players from that Ciudad Deportiva Academy go to Villarreal.
It's basically what Red Bull has in the Formula 1.
Yeah,
they have their second
like
team,
this.
Toro Rosso.
Yep.
So basically it's the Toro Rosso of Red Bull.
Even at the academy level, huh?
Yeah,
Not for the pro club, because they invest more than any other La Liga club in their academy. 25% of their budget. Probably it's the old Ciudad Deportiva of Villarreal, but now it's like a feeder club even for Villarreal, which is incredible because it's a tiny place.
Yeah. What would be the normal expenditure in?
I don't know, but no more than 10%, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, 24% is an outrageous amount to spend on it.
It is significant.
And especially considering you have Valencia, it's a huge catchment area as well. You even have Levante too. You had before 3 clubs in La Liga. So 25% is like outrageous.
It is a club that has invested in local talent and has typically employed a lot of Spanish coaches. Some notable people that have coached there: Manuel Pellegrini, obviously former champion with Manchester City, and Unai Emery, probably the coach most synonymous, I would say,
Although
with
Pellegrini, maybe it'll come back, I don't know.
Say it again?
Maybe Pellegrini's title will come back, huh? We'll see.
We'll see. Hull City will employ him, I'm sure of that. Unai Emery, 2 seasons with Sevilla, very, very successful, I believe, won the Europa League both occasions before going to PSG, and then at Arsenal, 2 seasons which didn't go down quite well. He's now...
I think even Emery was 3, huh? Because he won 3 Europa Leagues.
3 in Sevilla.
I think he won 3 in
I think
Sevilla.
you might be right,
He won 3 with Sevilla, but not 3 in a row. I think there was a gap in between. I think
then they won 3, but he wasn't the manager.
Yeah, I think in 2006 Sevilla won it against Middlesbrough in Eindhoven. I think he might have been the coach then.
Speaking of Sevilla, in the UEFA club coefficient ranking at the time of recording, Villarreal are in 16th position. Sevilla is 15th. 17th, can you guess? Another recent Europa League victor.
Spanish Europa League
Fiorentina.
Same right country.
Italy.
Yep.
Atalanta.
Silvana's got it. Atalanta in 17th at the moment. Villarreal, as Silvana indicated to earlier, a La Liga stalwart. They really have, I think, only spent 2 seasons since 2001, I think, outside of La Liga. 24 seasons so far, 10 in La Segunda. So they've spent more time in the highest tier of Spanish domestic football competition than they have in the second.
So they were in Segunda B before then?
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we, I don't know if this might be later on the agenda, but can we talk about the best or the better players from Villarreal?
Yeah.
That are so good.
Oh,
Unfortunately, they never ever really became world class. I say this 3 times for a reason. I'm talking Santi Cazorla, I'm talking Forlan and Riquelme. Top players, but not world class.
Yep.
Does this have something to do with Villarreal? I mean, Riquelme was Barcelona, I wouldn't say legend, but good. But he never really made it. Diego Forlan, great, but he's not Suarez. Santi
But you need to
Cazorla,
be
great, but he's
consistent.
not David Silva.
You need to be consistent to be great. That's the point. I don't think it's about the club.
I think Diego Forlán really a forgotten player in the 2004-05 season.
He was Ballon d'Or.
He was. He also won
silver Ballon d'Or at the World Cup, wasn't he?
Yeah, he won the Pichichi Award as well.
Exactly.
In Spain in
2006.
2005 apparently. So.
But in the World Cup as well.
Yes.
They were in 2006. I think he was the silver Ballon d'Or behind Zidane.
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
And
Riquelme went to Barca right after Villarreal.
I don't know if it went right after.
I
but
think it was before.
But we remember them from their heyday, from their best moments,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And then you look back like, oh, Villarreal. I'm just curious to know, why were they so good at Villarreal? Like, other players are really good at Sociedad, for instance, and then they become top at their next club. But the guys from Villarreal, because I looked them all up, none of them actually were the stars in their next and better teams. So I want to know if...
Is there something specific about the club, you mean?
Yeah, so maybe they give the warmth,
The love,
the
like
safety
PSV
and the
Eindhoven.
love, that they can excel there.
I don't know. I don't have a theory about this. They do have one of the current stars of the Spanish national side, Gerard Moreno. Catalan born and bred, to the best of my knowledge, key striker, 76 goals at time of writing for Villarreal since signing in 2018. Has been part of the Cantera system since 2010 apparently. So they are, as Dylan pointed out, a club that invests in its local talent that it finds and sources very, very well. And I think one of the clubs that really does business quite well as well. We'll come on to their kind of budget per season in a second. He has had 5 goals now for Spain so far, though I believe what I saw does not take into account their performance in the current UEFA Europa.
I don't think he's part of the squad. Huh?
He's not. Okay, there we go.
I don't think so, but you can check
He's on
later.
the bench. He's on the bench.
Yeah?
He's on the bench. Yeah, he hasn't played a single
You could
minute.
also add that he played at Getafe a couple years ago and he was doing really well. That's
On
why.
loan, yeah.
That's why he went to Villarreal, huh? As well.
And he has also twice won the Trofeo Zarra, which is the Pichichi Award,
One of the seconds.
but only for Spanish people. So he's been the top Spanish La Liga scorer, I think, twice consecutively this season and the one before, though I might be wrong about the seasons.
Do you know where Pichichi is named after?
Go on.
I didn't know this. I think it was... I think 95 from what I remember, but basically Pellegrini, I was reading about his playing career, as you had suggested as well, not just his managing career, because, yeah, he was a decent player, but he was obviously a bigger manager. And he said that, I don't know, he was in his late 30s before he was about to retire, and he was center back, and he was clearing the ball off the line. And then half a second later, some 17-year-old striker just, when he was clearing the ball off the line, headed it in. And he was like, who is this guy? And then that was actually Pichichi. And he said, oh, well, I would have stayed 2 more years if I knew who this guy ended up being. And they ended up naming the trophy after him.
We hope you're enjoying this episode. If you are, consider giving a like, writing a comment, following, subscribing, giving us a high rating, all that jazz. You don't have to, but it would help us out with the algorithm in the place where you listen to your podcasts. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the episode. The end of 2012 season, they were relegated, but came straight back up the following season, and they've been in La Liga ever since. With regards to finishes, they've never won La Liga. They came second in the 2007-8 season, finishing after
Madrid,
the other one.
Barca.
The other one. No, Barcelona, yes.
They did break the big 2.
They came third once in 2004 and 5. They've been fourth twice and fifth.
Do you
6
know how
times.
many trophies they've won in their history as a club?
3
Villarreal?
Europeans.
I do not.
3
One.
European
One.
trophies.
One
in
the history of the club.
Baltimore City have. 1 in which year?
Against my Manchester United, one of my
Oh,
clubs.
wah, wah.
2004.
Losing to De Gea's penalty, skying it over. I remember that.
It was,
That was
2021.
Correct. Beating
COVID year. I remember watching that.
Man U in the final.
Well, with
your
De
boy- your
Gea
boys
skying
took
it
them
over,
that far.
I remember
What
like it was yesterday.
was Santi Cazorla playing in that game?
He would have been, no?
He must
That
have
time?
been.
Yeah, because I remember he came back after Arsenal, and he was absolutely awesome. But I mean, this is the type of guy. Like I always compare him to Juan Mata, David Silva, Santi Cazorla, and a little bit Mikel Arteta.
Why?
Very, very similar, short Spanish, super technical players that always make a difference.
Yep.
And especially for Villarreal, I think Cazorla was game changer.
Playing with intellect.
Yes.
Thinkers, read the game well, but no physical presence. That's what the Spanish game doesn't have.
Yeah,
That's
but
the great thing about football, though.
However,
look at the English. They have lots of physicality, and they're not one.
But it's all about having the good mix, because you remember Marco Senna.
What a player. Unbelievable player.
I think he won the Euros with Spain in 2012. Marco Senna, Villarreal legend. Big, bulky, strong, physical.
Are you calling him a beast?
He's a beast, yeah. If you have that guy as a Santi Cazorla, you have a Marco Senna next to you.
The balance.
I don't know if they actually played together, but that would be like the dream, you know.
I don't think so.
Every fucking physical duel or a high ball, he would win. Cazorla would be smart, picking it up, and then have the right pass with the right pace. We're talking Villarreal, two legends, Marco Senna, Santi Cazorla.
At time of writing, Villarreal have played 134 games in Europa League and 46 in the Champions League, winning an astonishing 30% of them. You think of it as a small kind of backwater provincial minnow club, but they've been very successful. They lost in the semi-final of the UEFA Cup, before it was known as the Europa League, to local rivals Valencia, who eventually won the competition against Marseille in the final in 2004. And as we discussed, since then they have gone on to lift the trophy themselves in 2021. But the main point I want to discuss with you guys today is that this is not, I would argue, a club destined for greatness on the back of, let's say, an enormous population of people mad by football. It is a town of 51,000 people. First established, the first record we have of the Villarreal town in existence comes from 1274, so during the reconquest period of Spain. It was a frontier town, as I think the Aragon armies pushed south against the Moors, against the Arabs. 51,000, that means that the entire town can fit into the San Mamés of Athletic Bilbao, the Wanda Metropolitana of Atletico Madrid, or the Estadio Benito Villamarín of Betis. So,
have you actually been there?
I've been to all three, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I've been to
Villarreal?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I would say the whole city could fit, or
tell me about it.
What's your impression
in
that
town?
Stadium? No, the reason I've been there was not for a first team game, but for La Liga Promises, which is a tournament for all the top academies in Spain that play in the actual stadium, which is quite cool, and they still play 7-a-side, so that's how young they are, but it's on TV. They have one in Orlando as well, so that's why I went there. And you go to have lunch in between the morning and afternoon games, and there's nothing there. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I went to go meet a scout there a few years ago, and I'm like, this is the town? Like, am I getting off in the right station? And there's nothing there. It's incredible. I don't think there's any club that's comparable to Villarreal, really, in world football.
I agree.
In terms of the outsized importance in comparison to how small it is.
What is the big brother town just down the road, 2 stops away?
Castellón
de la Plana.
Which is actually a really bigger club historically.
And question, Castellón de la Plana, you guys are way better at Spanish than me. De la Plana, what does plana mean?
It means plain. Yeah. Big, flat, wide space.
Basically. Okay. So the Castellón, flat space, basically. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Flat space, yeah.
It's a much more historical town with much more importance. There's a story about this, actually, about how the person bought Villarreal instead of Castellón, because he wanted to buy Castellón, but then he actually ended up buying Villarreal, and apparently it was like a messy contract on a napkin. That is how they did business there. They're like, okay, you're not gonna sell me Castellón? No pasa nada. I'm gonna buy Villarreal, and then I'm gonna make it way bigger than Castellón, and that's exactly what's actually happened.
We'll get onto this story, but I want to talk about Castellón, the actual town and club, first and foremost. Castellón de la Plana, the earliest record I found of settlement here is from 1252, which actually makes it younger than Villarreal. But again, a relatively modern town, not something like Granada, Sevilla, Tarragona, these cities that can Cádiz that can date themselves back to Phoenician times. Castellón in this area is not like that. Of course, the Phoenicians, the Romans, the Visigoths would have been...
Is this because it's flat?
No, it's because it wasn't particularly useful to any of these civilizations that occupied the land. Nowadays, we've got 175,000 people living there. It's perfectly on the GMT, the Greenwich Meridian Time Zone. I found out while researching. It's exactly south of London.
In Spain, why we have the time zone we have, right?
I'm sure our listeners want to hear it.
Apparently, because Hitler wanted Franco to have the same time zone.
Yeah.
So this is why we have the late sunsets,
it was done in
we
sympathy,
should, when you said GMT, we have an hour back when we go to Portugal. So Spain should theoretically be like that for latitude as well. But it's not because they want it to be synchronized with Germany. That's my understanding, at least.
That's mine as well. Yeah. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I've wondered why there isn't a movement to change this. Because there's so many political movements to change something, to ignore, or to.
But it's a great part of the culture, isn't it?
The time zone?
Yeah, for the sun to be out later.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay.
You know, like in the U.S., we have daylight savings, and we have it here as well. But what's the point of daylight savings? I don't want it to be light out when it's 6 a.m. I want it to be light out when it's. I'd prefer it to be light out an hour later.
I hate waking argument. Up when it's dark. So maybe that's where we differ, Dylan.
To be honest, I have to agree. I also have daylight savings because I spend most of my money at night.
Is that from your comedy special, Sylvana?
Yes, follow me on Instagram.
It's not now, huh?
Keeping it light. That's you're all up in your Hitlers and your Francos. Someone needs to keep it light.
And Castellón, yes, founded following the Kingdom of Aragon's capture of the land from the Moors in 1252. And from then...
Why was it not useful, Castellón?
Well, this is the reason why it became a city. Because an industry appeared in the region using resources and minerals that were found nearby, and a waterway, a bunch of rivers and canals on this region that helped make it possible. That industry is, of course, pottery.
La Cerámica.
La Cerámica, exactly. Yeah. And this is where the name of the stadium comes from. It is a nod to the industry that made this a great part of Spain. Now, the Museo Arqueológico Nacional in Madrid has a 4,000-year-old piece of pottery that is found nearby. I don't know where exactly, but somewhere, I think, in the hills close to the plain in which Castellón sits. This part of the Valencian community, when you go inland, it becomes extremely hilly. This is why it was the frontier land in the 13th century as the Aragonese and Castilian forces pushed down against the Moors. They gave this land the name El Maestrazgo, and they constructed many fortifications in these frontier lands from which to venture further into the Moors' territory and from which they could defend it.
So it was kind of a border for them.
It always used to be. Between Tarragona and Valencia, there was no big town.
Yeah, it's weird. Between Barcelona and Valencia, you have basically nothing.
Yeah. Tarragona, which was the Roman capital for a while, but that's the only one, basically. Everything else is relatively modern. But clay, used in the manufacture of ceramics, pots, tiles, that sort of thing, from a bunch of towns in the hills just north of Castellón. These are Villar del Arzobispo, of the Archbishop, that's in Valencia province, La Yesa, also in Valencia, and Trujillo, in Valencia, Alcora, which is in the province of Castellón, just north of Castellón city, San Juan de Morro, also in the same province, and Teruel, which is its own province. These had a bunch of clays that had a very, let's say, favourable chemical and mineral constituent for manufacture of different products.
We talked earlier about like the Moors, right? So the Moors took over the land, and then the Spanish tried to take it back, and then at some point the Moors they built like a little bit of a border, you know, so that the Spanish armies couldn't pass.
Yep.
And they called it the door, and then the Spanish called it the Moor door, and that's how the Lord of the Rings was written.
Is this why you keep getting invited?
I love that one, sir. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. And I think factually accurate as well.
More importantly.
The ceramic industry in Catalonia, which also is thriving, differs from Castellón in the fact that water is not used in the same quantity as it is in Castellón. The process there that is used to make tiles, to make pottery and bowls and whatever, is apparently called atomization. The description: atomization processes consist of pulverizing the clay suspended in water against a warm air flood. The result is microscopic spheres of clay filled with air, which are very appropriate for the dry pressing of floor tiles. So the type of clay used and the mineral constituent requires a greater degree of water, and the rivers and canals that over the plain, the plana, were a suitable place in which to have places to manufacture your pottery. So, very similar to Manchester and the Industrial Revolution that needed coal, raw materials from South Wales and all around the north of the UK, Manchester, at the bottom of the hills of the Pennines, had all these very strong rivers that could turn the windmills, which supplied power for the factories to make t-shirts for the first time. Castellón similar. The water from these rivers would be used to make the pottery using clay that was found in the hills nearby, and as a consequence, this is where Castellón, the town, exploded. It is one of the cities that is born as a consequence of specific industry. That survives to this day. A bunch of facts which I hopefully you find interesting about the ceramic industry. 25% of the province's GDP is dominated by ceramics, and 21% of people are employed directly in the ceramic industry. The Spanish ceramic sector is the world's second largest after China before Italy. Soccernomics, written by Simon Cooper and Stefan Szymanski. You read it, Dylan? Good book, no?
I've read parts of it, but he was one of the professors cited before living here, I was in Liverpool doing a football industries MBA at the University of Liverpool, and he was one of the professors cited.
Cooper or Szymanski?
Szymanski,
yeah.
He is like a legend. Yeah, he's a staple, really.
One of the big theories in the original first published version of Soccernomics asked the question, why is it that across Europe, the most successful teams in a country tend to be not from the capital, a few exceptions of course, but they tend to be from kind of the second city. We're talking in Italy, Turin and Milan, Eindhoven compared to Amsterdam. Germany, Berlin does not have the strongest teams. Generally speaking, historically, the better teams in England were either in the West Midlands or the Northwest. Glasgow has always been far stronger in terms of football prowess than Edinburgh. Their theory was that football will speak more to the people who are a little bit, let's say, dispossessed and outside of what they let's say is their community. Therefore, industrial cities where a lot of people are immigrants and move to are looking for a connection, a way to belong.
Identity.
Well, exactly, will gravitate toward football.
Well, having lived in Liverpool, I can
exactly. The northwest of England is the example that they
Barcelona
choose.
As well.
Yeah.
Eindhoven, for
real.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Saint-Étienne and Lyon, Marseille compared to Paris in
Saint-Étienne, I went there for the Euros, Portugal, Iceland, 2016. Saint-Étienne is nothing.
Yep.
I mean, Lyon is a relatively small city, and Saint-Étienne is nothing. It's like a Villarreal.
Yeah.
You could have an episode on that, actually.
Saint-Étienne, if it moved to Spain. But as a consequence, you would expect, therefore, Castellón to be, a potentially great of the Spanish game. But it is not. It is far less successful, relatively speaking, than Villarreal has been. It's only spent 11 seasons in the Liga, 5 consecutive in the Fortives, but the last one was in 1991, the year of my birth, and 42 seasons in La Segunda, I believe currently in La Segunda B, which is the third division of Spanish football.
Just corrections, La Segunda B does not exist anymore, huh? So it's now Primera Ref, Segunda Ref, but yeah, that's on the side, just so you know.
Castellón arguably has the stronger fan base compared to Villarreal. It's
a bigger club.
Yeah, it has 2 active ultra groups that I'm aware of, the Barricada Albinegra, active since 2005, and Ultras Castellón, which has a very limited online presence but seems to be active. Another apolitical supporter group, the Linea Albinegra, are very vocal online about their stance against violence as a part of football culture, in response to what appears to be some violent activity conducted by other fans and other groups in 2017, I believe. I would say, and Dylan Silv, maybe you can give your opinion, Castellón is kind of maybe seen as the more legitimate club of the region to support. It's got a longer, more prestige, or I don't know
gravitas?
Gravitas, maybe, yeah. It's kind of seen as more legitimate.
In my opinion, I'm like, it's between Barcelona and Valencia geographically, right?
Yes.
And then you have Madrid, and then you have your always contenders Atletico Madrid, and you have Sevilla, and then you have Bilbao, and you have kind of the hierarchy is kind of clear, but everyone can still contend.
Yep.
However, when you are from the region between Barcelona and Valencia, Castellón region, or even when you're from Valencia or Barcelona, you still want to support someone. But you don't necessarily want to support like the top dog. I think that's the ideal club to support because they
Castellón.
No, Villarreal. I'm thinking like because they've been up there. They produce great players. Sometimes they're not great. Sometimes they are great. Also, you don't have to directly identify with that club because you're actually not literally living there.
Yeah, but why would you support them if you're not from there?
Exactly. This, I think, is the criticism a lot of people have of the fan scene of Villarreal.
I agree, but I think that's why people empathize with that club. Because in my opinion, I grew up in the Netherlands.
They're like the underdog, you mean?
Yeah, kind of the underdog. Like, it's fine. I don't mind if they finish second. I don't mind if they relegate. It's
You're not hated by anyone.
It's kind of like it's kind of like your neighbor, you know.
Yep.
It's not your best friend. It's also not your enemy. You hope he does well. If he loses his job, you also really don't lose a night of sleep. It's like, this is just.
I think this is the Dutch mentality. Yeah?
Something cute,
that's my opinion.
something
Yeah,
cute, something harmless. Kind of, you can support it as a second team. That sort of thing.
You just
that's
enjoy
what you're
it. Yeah.
I mean, I would say that they're a pretty big club, though.
In terms of success,
it'll be hard to deny that.
Now we'll look at the figures.
People say about Real Betis, for example, not being a big club, but from Sevilla, but Villarreal, based on results, they're a much bigger club.
Well, this is what we'll discuss now. I think
bigger.
In terms of budget, I looked at the wages of 20 La Liga clubs between 2017 and 21, and the average, excluding Real Madrid and Barcelona, because obviously those are anomalies, the average wage in terms of millions was 96 over the course of a year. Villarreal stand at 142, and it does not range that much. They went from 103 to 109, 134, and then 117 over the course of
Very
4
stable.
seasons. So it is by no means a club that is struggling financially. It has the resources to spend. But compared to, in terms of size of supporters, it doesn't compare to not even to Castellón, let alone any club in the actual La Liga. Do you guys know what a Peña is? You'll know what a Peña is. Kind of official supporter group surrounding the club. Villarreal have 26 registered Peñas. Valencia, big-time local rivals, have 500. Clubs that have a lower budget on average than Villarreal that have more Peñas: Cádiz 74, Granada 35, Levante 52, Mallorca 54. The list goes on. This is not a big club with regards to fan base, even though it has resources. It doesn't also have a real kind of strong, let's say, hardcore militant supporter group. There was a small group called Borrachos, which again is kind of Catalan for the drunkards, I guess, active in the 2000s.
Sounds
but
like Spanish.
They don't appear to be active now, and the website I found the information on has not been updated since 2010. So, this begs the question, where did Villarreal get their wealth from if it's not as a consequence of a large active fan base? And that points to the last thing I want to discuss, which is the president, Fernando Ruiz. Now, Dylan, you had a story, no, about how the club was purchased.
My understanding was Fernando wanted to buy Castellón because, all to your point, this is a bigger club. It's like, let's say, for a poor man's perspective, Barcelona and Espanyol, okay? You're going to buy Barcelona, you're not going to buy Espanyol. But Barcelona's not for sale. Castellón's not for sale. So it's like, screw you. I'm going to buy Espanyol. He said, okay, I'm going to buy Castellón. The guy was like, no, you're not going to buy it. It's not for sale. Okay, no problem. No pasa nada. I'm going to buy Villarreal. I'm going to show you, screw you, that this club is going to be way bigger and better. But when you mentioned Valencia has been basically a disaster recently. Villarreal is a way bigger club as far as I'm concerned than Valencia. In terms of results,
The past 10 years, yeah, definitely.
I mean, not even comparable, right? Valencia sometimes is maybe getting relegated. So the way the guy has run the club is unbelievable. It's an example for world football, really. And making a really nice stadium and everything it's world class, like really, and doing things the right way, in my opinion. Investing in the academy, not bloating the budgets up, and really doing things the right way in a sustainable manner.
Well, he comes from let's call it a dynasty, or a business dynasty.
Fernando
Ruiz. Born in 1947 on the 25th of June, so his birthday was a couple of days ago as we're recording this. Happy birthday, Fernando. The oldest of 7 brothers. His parents founded a chain of butchers operating in Valencia, and in 1977 they founded Mercadona. His brother Juan is now the executive president and majority shareholder of Mercadona, and I think the Ruiz group as well. He also owns Valencia Basket, Valencia's leading basketball team, and together with Jorge Martinez Aspar, he acquired a motor racing facility 20 kilometers south of Valencia that is now known as the Aspar Circuit, and also it's the base for the Aspar motorcycle racing team. Jorge Martinez Aspar went into business with Fernando Ruiz because those were the two who pitched the idea for a Formula 1 Grand Prix in Valencia to Bernie Eccleston, who used to be the head of Formula 1, in 2007. The 5-year event cost the Comunitat de Valencia 300 million euros, and as of 2021, creditors are still owed 42.9 million. So that was one of his failures. But otherwise, the Ruiz family, like I said, I think dynasty is the right word. His other brother, Francisco, from 1994 to 1997, was the majority shareholder and president of Valencia, a far more prosperous era of the club's existence. He now owns 38% shares in Hércules, the football club of which city?
Royston Drenthe played there.
I don't know.
Dutch left
That's a really good question.
wing back who played for Madrid, Royston Drenthe.
Yeah.
Royston
yeah.
Drenthe. Okay.
He played for
He also
Hercules.
played for Everton.
Yeah.
And he created his own club at his mansion in Liverpool.
Where's Hercules? Is it in
Alicante. So that is still Valencia region.
Okay.
So you've got two ventures into motorsport. You've got a basketball team, I think, also Parmesa, which is the ceramics concern of which Fernando is the president. They also sponsor Teruel Volleyball Club, I believe, which again the region just north of Valencia. And then you've got investments in major football clubs of all three of the community's provinces. Fernando Ruiz himself, he is the president of the Parmesa Ceramica, and if you've ever seen the jerseys, the shirts of Villarreal, Parmesa is the nice blue, kind of the very sort of cute, soft logo. He paid 432,000 euros for Villarreal back in 1997.
And it's true that it was on a napkin, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
This was like they just went to café con leche and
couldn't buy what he wanted, so he was like, well,
exactly,
I'm going to do it
365,
here. The following year, construction work got going onto 3 of the 4 stands at the ground. Complete refurbishment of the ground 2004-2005. The Spanish Treasury tried to accuse Fernando of, what would you say, tax fraud and I think falsifying documents deliberately when they were investing in renovations of the club. Parmesa has been the title sponsor of the club since 2013. He also sponsors Valencia Basket and Volleyball Teruel, so 2 different entities in which Parmesa invests its money. As of 2017, Diario AS, which is one of the big football-orientated newspapers here in Spain, estimated that Fernando Ruiz had spent a total of £190 million, euros I should say. And I think the big question is, why? What is the interest here? I think it's very reasonable to be sceptical of multimillionaires, billionaires being a little bit frivolous with their cash, investing money, whatever. Many of them quite clearly are doing it for media exposure. Some of it is legitimacy. People with shady past,
Arabs,
if they have a greater public profile, let's say, and I think this is what Roman Abramovich was largely doing. You get away from dodgy dealings in Russia, become a visible face in the United Kingdom. Sport washing.
Yeah.
But given the fact that this, not just Fernando, but this family have invested across different sports in the community of Valencia, I think this is a good example of businessmen doing it for the right reasons, quite frankly. Acumen, community, putting something back. And again, doing things for the right reasons is the best thing you can do to build your business brand, in my humble opinion.
They deserve all the credit, really. They really did things the right way with less resources, right?
Yep. Absolutely. But this is the reason why next door, the older, more legitimate club, Castellón, they are bitter about this. They see Villarreal as their rivals to such an extent that the Barricada Albinegra, even though the club was founded in 1923, on all their kind of fan merchandise and logos that they do, they claim 1922 as the year of founding, just so the simple reason, it makes it older than Villarreal that was founded in 1923. That's the reason why.
It's like, what is it called? The Tottenham Spurs Stadium. It's nothing original of a name. It's like 2 seats more than the Emirates.
Just to spite them.
Yeah.
That exact reason. So that is the past, the present, the future of Villarreal, the Yellow Submarine, the Azulejeros. Villarreal.
The
Azulejeros, another nickname for the club, the Tile Makers, a nod to the industry that has put not just Villarreal but the entire province of Castellón on the map and has emerged as one of Spain's surviving industries in the competitive globalised world. Boys, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
And thank you for listening as well, guys. This has been Hispanophiles Travel in Spain with only half a brain. We shall see you.
Go, 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 go,
Gol, 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 gol. See, this is the sort of thing where I pause and I can edit it out.
It's okay, James.